So here we are, another day. How amazing, still alive.
I believe we have Venerable Dondrub with us at TNLSF.
Wonderful.
I'm not sure, but I think he's got a bunch of people with him.
Oh, okay.
TNLSF.
You mean in his heart, carrying all sentient beings? Is that what you mean? I hope we're there.
Just the two of us here in the Gompa.
Oh, I see you're in the Gompa. Right. Good. So with the two of you in the Gompa, by all means, feel free to, participate as much as you can, and just enter into the chat whatever you need. And if I can try to, help, naturally, that's my role. Okay.
Thank you.
So it's nice to see people's faces, because it's important to develop some sort of connection over, we started it now, so ongoingly over the next 5 more weeks, but also perhaps when we meet at Light of the Path or something like this, you never know. All things are possible. So I was hoping that you had a chance to reflect a little bit on what we did last week. Was anyone in that position, that fortune? Not really? A little bit? Yeah, a little tiny bit. It's good to go back over things and get them fresh in our mind. And that way we don't have to, at the beginning of each session, go back and review, but we can keep moving forward. Now, is anyone new? Anyone new here? So, all right. Well, we might just jump in and start, because it's almost, 7 o'clock your time almost. So I hope you're nice and warm. For me, I'm sweltering. It's like 30 degrees Celsius, not Fahrenheit. Yeah, so that's a bit hot. Okay, well, let's take this opportunity to just rejoice that we're together, rejoice that we had this precious opportunity, and let's not waste even a moment of it. And we'll get straight into, this module, which I'm aiming to focus more on Buddha Jewel. So that would be the priority for this week. I'm just going to make sure I can see all the controls so that I can screen share. What's going on here? Here we go, screen share. Advanced portion of screen. Okay, I'm assuming, give me a thumbs up though, that you can see everything on the screen there. Brilliant. All right, and let me just get set up so I can see what the subsequent slides will be, so I can see where we're going as well.
Welcome to those who have just joined. Welcome, Linda, Barbara, Thomas. Good to have you here.
And those who have newly joined, remember it's same as last week. There'll be times to jump in, pick the moment. Obviously, if I'm in the middle of a sentence, probably not the best idea to jump in then. Let me finish the train of thought so we don't lose it. And if you have questions and doubts, if things need re-explaining, perhaps I'm using terminology that you're not familiar with, perhaps it needs more elaboration. Perhaps you just have a question that you would like to have addressed, then please do let me know by interrupting. And when you do interrupt, please kindly say your name for the benefit of not only myself, so I can see who you are, where you are, but also for the others so that we can identify you on the screen. Okay, it's always, I understand video, might eat up more download, upload for you. I think it's good, if possible. I kind of think of that as a courtesy, so maybe that's a big assumption on my part, but if possible, turn your video on when you ask a question, even if it's just for the first 5 seconds or something. And maybe it's not always possible because your upload download speed, so I understand. Just where possible, don't be shy, please. Okay, so we'll get ready to start. So I'd like for you to just do a little bit of a meditation with me. as a way of cultivating the causes for going for refuge, which we looked at last week. So make sure you're in a comfortable position. You can see on the screen Guru Shakyamuni Buddha to assist your visualization. And so you can see Guru Shakyamuni Buddha at the level of our forehead, about 2 meters away. And each feature of his holy body represents a particular aspect of his omniscient mind and his inner attainments, his qualities. He's the supreme refuge. And he encompasses the Guru, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. From his holy body, light rays are emitted, and they go out in all 10 directions. And at the end, at the tip of each of those light rays, is an emanation, a manifestation of Shakyamuni Buddha, going out to help sentient beings to ripen their continuums. And so make sure you can know, but also feel. And feeling is more important than the visualization, even at this stage for us beginners. But know and feel. We are completely in the presence of Guru Shakyamuni Buddha. He strove for 3 countless great eons to benefit limitless sentient beings. And here we are, being benefited by him now. Shakyamuni Buddha is looking at us with compassionate eyes, and he says, son or daughter of the lineage, if you want to be liberated from the suffering of samsara, I will guide you. And so take that message deep into your heart to develop our reliance. We can also visualize around us limitless sentient beings. Father on the right side, mother on the left, whether they're alive or not. People we find challenging can be positioned in front. People who we feel love and connection with right now who support us, our friends and so forth, all around. And expanding out with limitless sentient beings, all taking the aspect of a human form, but continuing to experience their individual sufferings of each of the realms. Feel their presence as well. It's for these limitless sentient beings that we even do this practice or wish to attain enlightenment, so that we can actually liberate them also from their suffering and bring them to full and complete enlightenment as quickly as possible. And so since beginningless time, I and all sentient beings have been experiencing the general sufferings of samsara and the particular sufferings of the 3 lower realms. And although it's hard to imagine the extent and the depth of our suffering, try to tap into that for a moment, the unimaginable sufferings of the 6 realms suffering sentient beings. With the ending of an out-breath, we could find ourselves back in the lower realms. So much suffering. For such a long time. And so generate this self-compassion that wishes for oneself to be free of all suffering and its causes. This is the useful fear, the healthy fear, the intelligent fear of suffering and its causes, and it's that which we wish to be free of. So take a moment to generate useful fear. This is why we're seeking a refuge. Moving away from the sense of renunciation. Now change your focal object away from oneself to now all sentient beings who are suffering immeasurably. And we can develop a sense of great compassion that wishes to free them from suffering and its causes. They are numberless, and they will suffer in samsara endlessly unless we help them. And so develop a sense of responsibility. Right now we have, most likely, all of us, a precious human rebirth. So we have all the conditions right now, something so difficult to achieve and quickly lost, but with which we can attain not only happiness of future lives, liberation and enlightenment, and by default, naturally, happiness of this life. So we're well primed to benefit self and others. Amazing. Rejoice. Also, no doubt we have met unmistaken guides, precious gurus like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Tabje Lama Zopa Rinpoche, Geshe Sherab, and so forth, who teach unmistakenly the complete path of Sutra and Tantra. So fortunate, unimaginably fortunate. And so nothing is incomplete. We have all the internal conditions, all the external conditions. Now it's up to us to not delay, not to postpone our practice for later in this life or next life. It's right now that we need to act. And so the power to protect us from suffering and its causes, not only to protect ourselves from suffering, but so that we can protect all sentient beings, the power to protect relies in the presence of the Guru, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. They have already accomplished in their own continuum exactly what we seek. true paths, true cessations, consummate qualities. And so we can develop faith, knowing that having accomplished these qualities themselves, embodying them, having freed themselves from suffering and its causes by developing true paths, true cessations, they have the ability to protect us in our own suffering. And so take a moment to develop faith in the three jewels, bringing to mind their qualities. Infallible guides on which we can wholeheartedly rely. Go so far as to generate a sense of bodhicitta, that we do this practice, this teaching, every action of our body, speech, and mind, we do for the benefit of sentient beings, to free them from suffering, to liberate them, to bring them to enlightenment. And so grow your responsibility of great compassion into a mind of bodhicitta for the welfare of all sentient beings. I will attain enlightenment. And then remembering all sentient beings around us, we can imagine that we are leading them in the refuge prayer. They recite together with us and think that we're all taking refuge together. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. And so we can also make sure that not only with renunciation and from there generating a sense of great compassion and bodhicitta, but we can reflect on emptiness as well. Who is this I that is taking refuge? So this I does not exist independently, in and of itself, inherently, truly from its own side, by way of its own characteristics. This I, which does exist, conventionally exists, this mere I, merely labeled by the mind on the basis of body, speech, and mind, or the five aggregates. This merely labeled I takes refuge until enlightenment in the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, who also are merely labeled by the mind. By the merits of listening to the Dharma, all the merits collected together of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and our merits and so forth, all of the merits, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigrating beings who also are merely labeled by the mind. And so just reflecting on that emptiness as much as one can. Completely lacking inherent existence. Because things are empty of inherent existence, they can arise. Because they're empty of independent existence, means they are dependently existent. They can arise due to developing causes and conditions and so forth. And so we can imagine a replica of Guru Shakyamuni Buddha comes to the crown of our head and absorbs into us. Our body, speech, and mind becomes inseparably one with Guru Shakyamuni Buddha. And for the welfare of all sentient beings, we arise in the aspect of Guru Shakyamuni Buddha. And then light rays radiate from ourselves and bless all the sentient beings around us. On the tip of these light rays are little miniature Shakyamuni Buddhas going out to each of their crowns, absorbing into them, whereby they too become enlightened. And we can think, just as I motivated with bodhicitta, the wish to attain enlightenment for the welfare of all sentient beings, to bring them to enlightenment, we can now think that I've achieved my aim. In this way, we take the result onto the path and create a really strong imprint to be able to do it in the future, in actuality. Okay. So hopefully we've generated all the causes for actually developing a sense of refuge, a mind of refuge. And I want to go on to discuss today the Buddha jewel. So this is the beginning of the three jewels: Buddha jewel, Dharma jewel, and Sangha jewel. And by definition, basically, it's a final object of refuge. Final in the sense that it's already completed the paths, fully traversed them. Final in the sense that there's nothing left to fear. The Buddha has abandoned afflictive obscurations, knowledge obscurations, and so has completed the path, and in this way has reached the final destination of Buddhahood. So only a Buddha is a final object of refuge. And it talks there about a final object of refuge that possesses the 8 excellent qualities. And we'll look at them in a little bit of detail shortly. But basically, they can be summarized into qualities that enact the welfare of oneself and qualities that enact the welfare of others. So, enacting the welfare of oneself, having fully abandoned knowledge obscurations, attaining that ultimate true cessation, and having the mind that fully knows all phenomena, fully developed love and compassion and ability and so forth. So we'll look at them in more detail soon. But before we go to that, I just wanted to revise with you, in case you're not familiar with the bodies of a Buddha. Sometimes you can talk about two bodies, Dharmakaya, Rupakaya, or the wisdom truth body, and what do we call the form bodies of the Buddha? Quite often we just use the Sanskrit though. And this wisdom truth body, the Dharmakaya, is broken into two. So on one hand, we have this wisdom truth body that is the wisdom side of things. So this is the omniscient mind of a Buddha that pervades all. And this mind encompasses knowing conventional truths, ultimate truths, simultaneously in one mind. So incredibly powerful mind. It's really like, you could call it the supreme of all the true paths. So remember, when you hear Dharma jewel, you think true paths, true cessations, right? So here we're seeing on the Buddha ground that the Buddha possesses the supreme true path. And then the second aspect here, this nature truth body. So now what we're talking about is basically, we've just talked about the wisdom truth body, the mind. Now we're talking about the emptiness of that mind. So conventional truth and ultimate truth coming together, you know? So without the emptiness of the object doesn't exist. And sometimes you can think of it as two sides of a coin. So we've got the wisdom truth body, the wisdom mind of a Buddha, omniscient mind. And now we're looking at the nature truth body, which is this emptiness of a Buddha's mind. It also has two parts. So from one perspective, we can talk about natural purity. And this is basically the emptiness of inherent existence. I'm talking from the Prasangika, middle way consequence point of view at all times, unless differently specified. So this natural purity is the lack of inherent existence of a Buddha's mind. And Buddha's, you know, body, Rupakaya, and all that sort of stuff, that emptiness of that. So having attained the truth body, the Buddha's mind is completely free of stains, having abandoned afflictive obscurations, knowledge obscurations. And so this natural purity, if it was bound up with stains, it would be similar to our emptiness of our mind as a cyclic existence, suffering sentient being. So in this way, the nature of a Buddha's mind and the nature of our own mind are the same in lacking inherent existence. And so this is something incredibly powerful, I think anyway, to reflect on, because sometimes, like myself and you know, perhaps you can relate, we get a bit lacking in confidence, a bit, you know, self-doubt and you know, low self-esteem, insecurity, you know, something we can generally all relate to. But this is actually kind of like really precious and powerful to remember that the emptiness of our mind and the emptiness of a Buddha's mind are actually the same emptiness of inherent existence. And so that gives us great courage that if we too develop our Buddha potential, if we develop the qualities, if we enact the causes and conditions and develop the qualities through relying on the medicine, the curative medicine of the Dharma, then we can not only become free of cyclic existence, but go on to be free of knowledge obscurations and attain the state of a Buddha jewel as well. So I think there's awesome power in that. And so that's the natural purity. Now, this nature truth body has a second part. This second type is adventitious purity. And that is kind of like, we said here, this was the supreme true path. Or you can call this the supreme true cessation. And what we're talking about specifically, as far as true cessation goes here, is this adventitious purity part. Once again, from a middle way consequence school, both of these are emptiness, lack of inherent existence. This adventitious purity is the true cessation of having abandoned all obscurations, cognitive obscurations, afflictive obscurations, totally abandoned. And I think we can keep it simple at just that level. So that's looking at the ultimate Buddha jewel, the Dharmakaya, which incorporates these two aspects, wisdom, truth body, nature, truth body. Then the Rupakaya, or the form body, this is now talking about the conventional Buddha jewel. Both of these are actual Buddha jewels. They are in reality Buddhas. They are final objects that we wish to aspire to and actually attain as Mahayana practitioners. And this Rupakaya is now for the welfare of all sentient beings. And so the Buddha manifests limitless bodies that go out to benefit sentient beings of various levels, various dispositions. This enjoyment body, which we call usually the Sambhogakaya, that is like the holy body of the Buddha with all the marks and signs. And it has, 5 certainties that it usually talks about, one of which I just elaborated, which was this body with the marks and signs. Another aspect is it abides in a pure realm called Akanishta, and the retinue that it teaches, the Sambhogakaya form teaches, is Arya Bodhisattvas. And it teaches them the Mahayana Dharma. And it abides until the end of cyclic existence. So in this way, it has this body, the place, Akanishta, the body of 32, signs and 80 marks, the retinue, Arya Bodhisattvas, the Dharma is Mahayana Dharma, and the time, the 5th one, is until the end of cyclic existence. And so this is the Buddha enacting the welfare of this particular group of Arya Bodhisattvas. Now, we don't have that karma to obviously be taught by the Sambhogakaya, not yet. And then the second type of form bodies is emanation body. And this doesn't possess the 5 certainties, obviously, because it's a variation. And this one has different types of emanations as well. So you've got your supreme emanation body. So that would be like a Buddha who actually comes to this world and engages in the 12 deeds, showing how to become a Buddha. So Shakyamuni Buddha is a good illustration of that there. What else? Once again, we didn't have the pure karma to be able to see Guru Shakyamuni Buddha at that particular time. The Buddha can also manifest in an ordinary aspect, like a birth aspect, maybe even as an animal. And I was thinking today when I saw your news over there, just to try to, see what's going on in the other side of the world where you are in America, I saw that there was this bull elk, and you might have seen it as well, where he actually, he was getting harassed by the driver who happened to have a hunting background, and, he's being all smarty pants about it, wanting to take him on and all that sort of stuff. Have a go, mate. And the elk has come along with his, massive horns and punctured the tire of the car, which was, quite funny in a karmic way. So, you don't know who's that animal. Who is that animal? Is it an emanation of a Buddha trying to teach, to this person to give up harming animals? I don't know. We never know who's around us. And that's the thing, is we can't take the measure of somebody else because we don't know their qualities. We don't know, who actually they are in reality. They may well be a Buddha or a Bodhisattva. Anyway, side bit of humor. The form body also can take an aspect of an artisan, which is, like maybe a musician or something like this. And there's stories in Liberation of the Palm of Your Hand and so forth of the Buddha actually subduing, I think it was a king or something who was so proud, and a great flute player or something like this. So the Buddha decided to emanate as, being able to play this instrument, a lute actually. And I think he was even able to play it even after all the strings deliberately broke, to try to subdue and tame and, bring to the path the the king who was so once full of pride. So these 4 Buddha bodies, they are attained simultaneously when one attains enlightenment. And basically, from the Sutra Path perspective, the perfection vehicle, for instance, it's the collection of wisdom that goes on to result at a consummate level, the final level of a truth body of a Buddha, for one's own welfare, having abandoned knowledge obscurations and so forth. And then the collection of merit we accumulate then goes on as a final result to attain the form body of a Buddha. And that's how we enact the welfare of all sentient beings. So one's for the purpose of oneself, and then in that realization of emptiness, that ultimate true path, that final true path, supreme true path, as a Buddha, we would be realizing the 2 truths simultaneously and so forth, having no longer any mistaken appearances or anything like that. And then staying stuck in that meditative equipoise, we can't, from that state, benefit others. And so we manifest bodies to be where sentient beings are in various realms of existence, to be able to help them. Okay.
Venerable, excuse me.
Where are you located? Which one are you, my dear? Say your name for me.
I'm your host, Paula.
Oh, Paula. I just want to be able to look at you when we speak. So,
Oh, I'm so sorry, Venerable, but it's not
I
about
can
me.
see you. Okay.
It's about TNLSF. Somebody would like
Okay.
to ask a question. Please
By
go
all
ahead.
means. Thank you, Paula.
Hello, this is Bade from New Mexico in
Did
Santa
you
Fe.
say your name was Bardo?
Yes.
Oh, interesting. Thank you. Thank you.
I had a question when you were referring to an emptiness of the Buddha mind.
Mm.
And for me, this is kind of difficult to grasp
Mhm.
because emptiness is usually something I think of which could lead to, nihilism, for example. But to get away from that, I think of, it's more way of relieving attachment. Is there a similar?
What was your last sentence, Bardo?
I'm just trying.
Getting away from nihilism. I caught that bit, but I didn't catch the last bit. Sorry.
Yes. So the antidote for that I think of is that emptiness is actually a way to remove attachment and grasping. But I don't know how to apply that to the thinking of the Buddha mind as emptiness, because I kind of want to attach to the Buddha mind.
Well, in some ways, we can't attach to the Buddha mind and the Buddha body and all of these things, because when we talk about attachment, it's usually to a contaminated object, and we exaggerate qualities that don't exist. So in that way, you can take some comfort. You won't be developing attachment to the Buddha, because they are perfect in qualities. You cannot exaggerate the Buddha's qualities. So that's one thing. The other thing, yes, this wisdom realizing emptiness, so not emptiness itself, but the wisdom realizing the lack of inherent existence, that wisdom mind, definitely, when it is developed to be like a perceptual or a non-conceptual realization of emptiness, so now I'm talking path of seeing and beyond, that is a powerful antidote to destroy ignorance, grasping at a self or phenomena to inherently exist, and everything that arises subsequent to that grasping. So from grasping, this ignorance grasping at a self, excuse me one second, this ignorance grasping at a self, from that, we divide everything into, I and mine, and self and other, and those that are close to me we protect, and those that harm our loved ones or ourselves, we keep away from, we generate aversion for. So from grasping at a self, we split everything into self and other, and on the basis of that we develop attachment or aversion and so forth, from which we create karma, negative actions, on the basis of which we create suffering. So this powerful antidote of wisdom realizing emptiness can destroy at the very root that ignorance, rather than picking off like a tree with branches, rather than pruning one branch at a time and overcoming our anger by developing patience, and overcoming our attachment by developing non-attachment, overcoming our jealousy by rejoicing in others, and so forth. Rather than pruning this tree, in one powerful antidote, we can destroy with the wisdom realizing emptiness at the root our cyclic existence, this ignorance, and everything that follows on from that, which was attachment, aversion, negative karma, suffering. So this wisdom realizing emptiness is definitely not about falling into nihilism. It's not saying nothing exists. And if you want to test, then, try pinching yourself right now. And I'm sure you feel pain. I did. Ow, that wasn't very cool. Could have visualized that. You can feel pain, and of course I exist. But how do I exist? That's the question. How do I exist? I do exist. I exist conventionally. I don't exist ultimately, inherently, independently. But I do exist. So we can't fall into nihilism if we think about it like that. If we think about dependent arising is often an easier approach, Bardo, to actually developing understanding of emptiness, because, dependent arising has the same meaning, but we can't really fall into the nihilism so much when we think about how things arise. How do they arise? They arise in dependence on causes and conditions, and they have parts, and, like this. So I don't know, I elaborated and went blah, blah, blah. I don't know if that hit at any of your question, Bardo. Maybe I'm lightheaded from lack of lunch, but it's like 12:40 in the afternoon here. But Bardo, please feel free to elaborate your question if you didn't get what you needed from it.
Oh, no, that was very helpful. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for asking. When we have a question, no doubt other people have that question, whether it be at that time or at a later time. So questions are really awesome, because not only does it help our own understanding, but it's really a gift that we can give to others in helping them who may be a little bit shy on speaking up and so forth. So thank you very much. Okay. So we did cover, and thank you, Bardo, and Paula for waiting until I finished that presentation there. I think that was helpful timing before bringing in the question. So I said to you, we're going to look at the eight qualities briefly. When we looked at the definition, we saw, about this final object of refuge possessing the 8 qualities. And so in Sublime Continuum, I hope you've had the opportunity to study that text. Utterly brilliant, basically on developing our Buddha nature. And this is a quote from there, because it specifies in verse form, chapter 1, verse 5, it specifies the 8 qualities of a Buddha jewel. And so the first one here is being uncompounded. And actually, I think, did that definition, sometimes the definition actually gives the first of the 8, and it says uncompounded. So I don't think it was on the previous slide, but a Buddha jewel by definition is that final object of refuge, possesses the 8 qualities, such as being uncompounded, the first quality, and so forth. So this uncompounded, so this is actually referring to, do you remember what we were just talking about, the natural purity, that emptiness of the Buddha's mind? So it's referring to that being uncompounded. The emptiness of a Buddha's mind is uncompounded, it's permanent, okay? It's not produced in dependence on cause and conditions, because that would be an impermanent phenomena. So this emptiness is the ultimate nature of the Buddha's holy mind. So uncompounded is, one of these aspects. And this is of 3. This is how we look at the Dharmakaya from the perspective of enacting one's own welfare. So the Dharmakaya, okay? So it's uncompounded. So the emptiness of the Buddha's mind, it's, unproduced. It's therefore has no beginning, no middle, no end. The spontaneously present here, the spontaneous bit, that the Buddha is spontaneously present and can effortlessly and spontaneously enact the welfare of all sentient beings. So this is referring to the adventitious purity. Remember that supreme true cessation on the chart. So I think, you probably have written some notes or something, but do you remember we're talking about these two aspects here. This is the uncompounded aspect that we're talking about, and this is the spontaneously present. So the natural purity, the adventitious purity. Adventitious meaning removing the adventitious stains, removing the afflictions, removing the obscurations, that which hinders liberation, that which hinders omniscience. So these are the two aspects we're talking about of the 8 qualities: uncompounded, spontaneous. Let's go back to where we were. This next one, oh, by the way, this spontaneous, so from a consequence point of view, it's also an emptiness. It's a final true cessation. And so therefore it too is uncompounded. But for some reason, they separate out the understanding to highlight perhaps the 2 different types of nature truth body by specifying one's uncompounded and one's spontaneous. So the spontaneous, once we've removed all the afflictive obscurations, but in particular the knowledge obscurations, because we're talking about Buddhahood, then we can, like without effort anymore, without exertion, without even any conceptualization of trying to motivate an action, not like that, just spontaneously enact the welfare to help sentient beings in a single moment. So this third one of how we enact our own welfare if we are a Buddha, how Buddhas are doing it already, is this not being realized through the cause of others. So that's very interesting. Not being realized due to extraneous conditions. There's various ways of presenting that. Basically, it's talking about 3 different things. It's talking about the realization of that natural purity, uncompounded, the realization of adventitious purity, the spontaneous, and the realization of like all phenomena exactly as they are. That phrasing, exactly as they are, is talking about realizing their lack of inherent existence, their ultimate nature. So realizing these 3 things, the natural purity, adventitious purity, and the Dharmakaya, the truth, the wisdom truth body, is realizing all phenomena exactly as they are. So the realization of a Buddha, realizing these 3 things exactly as they are, because they're realizing lack of inherent existence. When you realize these natural purities, adventitious purities, etc., you're realizing the lack of inherent existence. Now that cannot be expressed in words. To understand that realization exactly as it is can only be realized by a Buddha. It is actually beyond expressing in words and concepts, language, how that is. And so one of the 8 qualities of a Buddha jewel is highlighting this, that this realization goes beyond language. It's realized through one's own experience as a Buddha. So that's how they enact their own welfare, realizing the way phenomena exist in actuality, in a true way. And then enacting the welfare of others, we talk about qualities of knowledge, love, or mercy, great compassion, knowledge, love, ability or power. So these 3 qualities is now for the welfare of all sentient beings. And this knowledge points to perceptually realizing conventional truth, ultimate truth, simultaneously, one moment of a Buddha's mind. And it's really realizing reality, ultimate truth. It's realizing diversity, all phenomena, So I like to think it's realizing every part of me, my body, my mind, and that way I'm never separated from Buddha. I have to remember that, but when I do, there's always a sense of comfort and calm and peace that can go with that we're never alone, and Buddhas are always there with us entirely in every moment of every day. So that's kind of cool as well. So this knowledge also, a Buddha, has such qualities of knowledge where a Buddha knows the disposition of every single sentient being and knows exactly what will help one sentient being and what will be harmful to another. So Bardo, your question indicating falling into nihilism. If you were not a suitable vessel to be taught emptiness of inherent existence, then the Buddha wouldn't have given that teaching to you at that time, but maybe more what's below the middle way consequence school, autonomy and below, where things inherently exist. Okay, because of the Buddha knowing the disposition of exactly what is needed at any particular time to tame, to subdue the mind of a being and to bring them to liberation and eventually enlightenment, would know exactly what to teach and how to teach. So knowing exactly what methods would be helpful to free that person from their fears of lower realms, samsara, and then for the Mahayanas, the fear of all sentient beings suffering in samsara. Or another way is for a Mahayanas, one of the fears, the useful fears we talk about, remember from last lesson, was fear of the knowledge obscurations, because it's the knowledge obscurations that which hinders, by definition, that which hinders omniscience. So if you're a bodhisattva, you're going to have that intelligent fear of wanting to be free of knowledge obscurations. Okay, so knowledge, I feel I've covered that one. For ourselves, very far from the Buddha ground right now, but always with the Buddhas, we can aspire, we can develop that faith that's, helps with our courses of refuge. We can develop that faith, that aspiring faith. We can learn the qualities of the Buddha jewel, Dharma jewel, Sangha jewel, and aspire to become like that. So we can admire their qualities and then wish to attain those qualities. And then as we progress in our study, reflection, meditation, we can come to actually develop some sort of conviction. We can have faith of conviction, knowing through our reasons and logic and so forth, knowing that these things are very possible. And these are our reality, if we can get out of our own way, out of our own laziness and so forth. So love or mercy, it's this unbiased, compassionate love, fully developed, consummate love. Amazing. So they say that the love a Buddha has towards us is far greater than any love we could even have for ourselves or any living being. Usually we tend to love ourselves more than others, sadly, because, we still have self-cherishing and all of these sorts of things. But the Buddha's love is even greater than we can even imagine. And so it's from this love and knowledge that, the Buddha sends forth a rain of Dharma to quench the thirst of those who seek to understand and progress on the path for the welfare of all sentient beings. Amazing. So this is how, with this love, the Buddha is going to be teaching us the paths of how to protect ourselves, how to protect ourselves from the lower realms by developing virtue, virtue being the cause of happiness, from ethics, a higher rebirth, right? So if we have practice ethics and a practice of the 6 perfections, we can develop the causes to attain a precious human rebirth. So if we want to be free of cyclic existence, we need to develop the 3 higher trainings: ethics, concentration, wisdom. if we want to attain Buddhahood, we need on top of that, we need the 6 perfections and so forth. So it's from this love that the Buddha enacts our welfare by teaching the Dharma, showing the path to liberation. Buddha said, I teach the path to liberation, but know that liberation itself depends on you. So we have to create sadly, we've got to do the effort. We create the work. The Buddha can't do it for us. As far as that goes, right now we can even like move into like a continuum of developing these qualities. So hang on, I think I wrote some notes on this for a second. I'm just going to see if I've written it. So I was thinking this morning how we can move into a continuum of developing these qualities that we aspire to achieve right now. So although we don't have this unbiased love already, and we do have love for a select few sentient beings around us, those that are, pleasing to us, our family, our loved ones, our pets, and so forth. We can move into a direction of one day having this type of love that loves all sentient beings, whether they're harming us or benefiting us. And so we can start with that now by trying to grow our love for sentient beings, at least by not harming. There's the whole purpose of Buddhism is to not harm. At least by not harming, in that way they'll receive some sort of happiness and peace and comfort from us. And so in that way, sentient beings' happiness does depend on us by not harming them. And more than that, we want to benefit them. So we can, do what we can now to try to move in the direction of developing these qualities. So what else? Ability. So this ability, a Buddha enacts the welfare of all sentient beings by possessing the quality of ability or power. And that is talking about being able to spontaneously enact the welfare of others. So it depends on love and mercy and knowledge. And this ability by Buddhas is there with us at all times, but we have to engage with the enlightened activities. Like the hospital I was just at the hospital just last week. The hospital is just down the road there, right? And it's got all the doctors and all the medicine and all the nurses there. But if I'm here at Chenrezig Institute, maybe 30 minutes drive away, I can't make use of the hospital and the curative medicine to be freed, cured of this terminal illness, where we're life after life just stuck in cyclic existence and uncontrolled death and all the misery that befalls us, not getting what we want, getting what we don't want, and going from high to low, upper realms, lower realms, and all this type of stuff. So if we want to be free of that terminal illness, we ourselves, the patient, we have to enter into the doors of the hospital. We have to enter into the doors of our Buddhist practice by taking refuge. Because otherwise the Buddha can't enact our welfare unless we choose to enter in to the doors. If the Buddha is like, the omniscient mind is like the sun in the sky, and it's a really bright, beautiful, gorgeous day, blue sky and everything, really nice and warm. I hope this is warming you up in cold Santa Fe right now. If you're stuck inside your house and the curtains, heavy drapes are drawn, the lights are all off and you're sitting there in darkness, what good is that going to be to getting the warmth of the sun or the accessing the omniscient mind of the Buddhas who are there at all times for our taking? So unless we draw the curtains or go out into the sunshine and bask in it, from our side, we have to step up. So this is why we're suffering, is because we haven't fully stepped up. We're on our way. And so we need to delight. We need to sincerely rejoice that we are doing our best. We're a work in progress. We're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. as long as we learn from them. But we are moving in a direction. So we're creating a continuum of moving in this direction towards those 8 qualities of a Buddha. All right, so these 3 and then these 3, we're talking about 8 qualities, but there's only 6 there, because you can basically summarize the first 3 into the fulfillment of one's own aims, the fulfillment of one's own welfare for the benefit of oneself. And then the other 3, knowledge, mercy, ability, knowledge, love, power, however you want to translate it. You can summarize all of that into enacting the welfare of others. Okay, so they're the 8 qualities that we're talking about. Shall I go on? Are you okay? Yeah? If anyone needs to stretch their legs or have a drink, I should actually, shouldn't I, have a sip of water? You need to have a drink? So if you're okay, I'll go on to talk about the next part, which is the 4 fearlessnesses. And this is 4 characteristics that are possessed, by a Buddha, which make a Buddha a reliable source of refuge. The 4 fearlessnesses are by which we can be protected by the Buddha. So there are 4 sets of qualities, and they're related to this enacting the welfare of others. And so what we'll see is enacting the welfare of others, knowledge, mercy, and ability. We'll see that these aspects come up again when we talk about the 4 fearlessnesses. They're related, and we'll see that relationship. So the 4 fearlessnesses, these are the reasons why a Buddha is able to give protection. And for us as Buddhists, we need to know what makes a Buddha different in being able to give that protection that we seek. Okay? And so this is quite important. And you see this come up quite often in a lot of different places. So the 4 fearlessnesses. The first one is related to that quality of knowledge. And the second one, actually, the 2 of them. So the Buddha is free from all fears. The Buddha has abandoned afflictive obscurations, knowledge obscurations. And because the Buddha is free of all suffering and its causes, free of all mistaken appearances of inherent existence and so forth, then the Buddha can help us. Because he is freed, he can help us because he knows how to get free. He has freed himself and so can help free us. He can free us because he's skilled in what to teach us, to tame us, subdue us, help us, so that we too can become exactly like him. So this is kind of cool, I think. Now, sometimes low self-esteem, remember, can plague us, and we can generate lots of self-doubts. I'm such a terrible practitioner, and how could the Buddhas possibly even have any love for me, and all this sort of tragic talk that we come out with all the time. But what we can do, so you can just even use your mala as a meditation tool, and you can just even do mantras or something like that. Something like if you have a particular guru, like maybe His Holiness the Dalai Lama, you can just be thinking of the Guru Buddha loves me, the Guru Buddha loves me, the Guru Buddha loves me. And as you're saying that as a mantra and moving a mala bead, you can imagine receiving, visualize in front of you the Guru Buddha, either in the aspect of Shakyamuni Buddha, identifying him as inseparable from the Guru, and generating that sense of light, maybe golden light and nectar coming into your heart, Guru Buddha loves me. Guru Buddha loves me. And, this can be like a nice way of overcoming some feelings of inadequacy, that we're not enough. We are enough. We're a work in progress. And so we need to not worry that the Buddha is not there helping us, because no matter whether we're a poor practitioner or a non-practitioner or a good practitioner, the Buddha has so much love for us that that's all he has trained to do as a bodhisattva, is to help us. And so if only one day we can glimpse, at which we will, but maybe some time away, if we can glimpse that love that the Buddha has for us, it would completely just overwhelm us. I don't think we would be able to hold that without shedding great tears. Because of the overwhelm of this amazing sense of love. Anyway. Okay, so 4 fearlessnesses. So there's the first 2. And so the next one relates to love, one of the 8 qualities from within the division of enacting the welfare of others. We're now talking about the second of those. So the 5th of the 8. So he engages all with impartial, great compassion. And this is, how he benefits us. So his love and compassion extends equally to all. They say if the Buddha was getting hacked to pieces on his right arm and, stroked lovingly with, beautiful oils and scents and so forth on his left, he would have equal compassion for both. I mean, that's just supreme. So without favoritism, without partiality, each of our gurus, each of our Buddhas loves us all equally, whether we're in the inner circle of attending to him or whether we're, in America or Australia, or wherever we are. The guru, the Buddha, has equal love for us all. He's not holding some close and others distant. And so this, I find, can be, quite beautiful as well to reflect on in times when we feel maybe distant from the Buddha, when we feel a sense of aloneness or disconnect. Remembering we've got to get out into the sun, or we've got to get through the doors of the hospital, by analogies, or simply, through our practice that, the Buddha loves me, and so forth. However we can connect to these omniscient qualities of Buddha's mind. And then the next one relates to ability. So we had knowledge, mercy, or knowledge, love, ability, knowledge, love, power, however you want to do it. These 3 that related to the welfare of all sentient beings. Now we see the 4 fearlessnesses match up quite nicely within each of those. And so why is a Buddha able to give protection? Because he enacts the welfare of every living being. So regardless of who helps him, who has harmed him, he's not, you can't bribe the Buddha. It's regardless of, whether you help or harm him, whether you have this, amazing devotion or newly developed devotion, it doesn't matter. The Buddha is always there helping us. And so we are worthy of the Buddha's love and compassion. We are very deserving, and it's there for the taking. And this is something that it's up to us now. From a dependent arising point of view, the Buddha has all these qualities to protect us, but from our side, we need to develop the useful, intelligent, healthy fear that fears our own suffering and fears cyclic existence and wishes to attain enlightenment. Remember Chandrakirti, the quote, Buddha Dhamma Sangha is for those desirous of liberation. So I think it was from 70 stanzas, something like this. So, from our side, we need to develop those useful fears and faith and grow our faith to become faith of conviction. And then we can wholeheartedly rely on the Buddha. And the Buddha can protect us because he has these qualities and has taught the Dharma by which Sangha embody the Dharma. And these are beings that we can rely upon until we can develop those within our continuum. Okay, so that's just a bit of an introduction into those sorts of things. I just stopped sharing for a minute to see where you guys are at. Does it make sense? No? Does anyone have anything they'd like to say? You're very welcome. If you don't talk, I'll keep going, blah, 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 blah. And if you're tired, now's a good time to talk as well, because then it'll wake you up. Anyone have any comments? Questions or anything? Then I'll keep going, blah, blah, blah. And you can jump in when you next wish to. So I just wanted to sort of come back. We've looked at the Buddha qualities. We've looked at, as Bardo got us to elaborate more on the emptiness of the Buddha's mind. And I think it's important to, without going for refuge, we're going for refuge in the causal refuge, that which already exists in the continuum of others, right? And therefore, because it exists for them having achieved it, we can rely on them to develop our own resultant refuge so that we can become Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So I think it's worth remembering sometimes, specifically now in relation to trying to learn more about the Buddha jewel, is that the Buddha was just like us at one particular point in time. The Buddha was not always Buddha. So the Buddha, hard to imagine, but as a sentient being, naturally had afflictions, had self-cherishing, had self-grasping, created non-virtuous negative karma, experienced suffering, all the things that we can relate to. So once like us, but did the work. Sangye, Buddha, Sangye. Sang as in has cleansed of what? Cleansed of the obscurations. Gye, Sangye, expanded in what? Realizations of all objects of knowledge. So fully expanded the mind. Excellent abandonments, Sangye, the sun being the abandonments, excellent abandonments, and excellent realizations, the Gye. So, when you think about a Buddha's mind, it has that nature of being clear and knowing, like our minds as well. And so in this way, our minds are very similar. It's just right now, our minds are wrapped up together with stains. So, of course, a Buddha has freed himself of those stains, but, just like the sky can be pristine blue sky without a cloud, or looking out now, I can see, a lot of white cloud everywhere, like reflecting my mind, bound up with stains. But with a wisdom wind coming in, with a wind, this wisdom wind can actually clear away those obscurations, clear away ignorance and delusions. Because the clouds have not entered into the nature of the sky. The stains, the adventitious stains, like our afflictions, have not entered into the very nature of our mind, that which is clear and knowing. So, if they had entered into the nature of our mind, they could not be removed. They'd be inextricably linked, unable to be removed. So we know from experience that that is not always the case, because we're not always angry. We can give rise to anger, but we're not always angry. If we were always with the adventitious stains inseparably in one nature with the mind, if we were always angry, we could never remove our anger, but we couldn't even develop love and patience, because those things are contradictory to anger. They harm anger. You cannot have two contradictory minds abiding at the same time simultaneously, right? So, you know, there's evidence there that we see the rise and fall of our afflictions, sometimes there, sometimes not, sometimes more intense, sometimes less so. We see that they arise adventitiously. They arise in dependence on causes and conditions. They are adventitious. Because they arise in dependence on causes and conditions, if we stop the cause, we stop the result. Okay? So when we talk about the root of all afflictions being that ignorance grasping at a self, it's a wrong mind, a wrong consciousness. That mind can be overcome. It can be overpowered. Being a wrong mind, it's not valid. So if we can develop a valid mind that is true, that accords with reality, if we can develop a mind that is based on reasoning and logic, if we can develop a valid cognition, okay, of like a true mind in the sense that realizing an object exists in the way it appears. So I'm talking about if this wisdom realizing emptiness, that has the power to overcome the ignorance grasping at a self, because the ignorance grasping at a self is a wrong mind. It's not based in reality. It's false. The way ignorance perceives things is, you know, what's true for ignorance is inherent existence, but the object lacks inherent existence. So the way the object appears to ignorance is not how it exists in reality. It's a false mind. And so by developing the opposite, a true mind based in reasons and logic, valid cognition, and it realizes the way the object exists and the way it appears are in accord. These two things are in accord for that wisdom realizing emptiness. If we can develop that true path even, then we can abandon all of our afflictions, the root of which is ignorance grasping at a self, from which anger, attachment, jealousy, pride, and all the rest follow on, by which, another cause, right? By which we create non-virtuous actions of body, speech, and mind, from which, another cause, all cause and effect, from which we achieve the lower realms. Not a very good achievement, is it? We take rebirth in the lower realms and experience uncontrolled birth, sickness, aging, death, even in the upper realms. So never free unless we develop this mind. And so remember I said back with Bardo's question that the emptiness of a Buddha's mind and the emptiness of our mind are exactly the same. They're both lacking inherent existence, the exact same nature. And so therefore we can use this as a reasoning, because things are empty, we can develop them. Because the adventitious stains have not entered into the nature of the mind, they can be removed. Okay? So because things are empty means they're not independent, they are dependent. Therefore, we can develop causes and conditions and grow these amazing realizations. So, you know, although the aim is to develop the Buddha jewel in our own continuum, we can start right here, right now, and moving in increments towards developing this wisdom, towards developing, you know, a mind of bodhicitta, great compassion, love, you know, equanimity, and so forth. All right. Let's see. Any questions or doubts on that? I think I've got a, let's see, I'll just share screen again then. I was just this morning I was just thinking of, oh, don't want to do that. Let's see if I No, I don't think I'll have time to do that. I thought about this morning because I just think it's always worth remembering. And, this was a picture that we saw recently, perhaps on Facebook or something like that. You are not alone, because all the time there are numberless Buddhas and bodhisattvas surrounding you, everywhere, loving you, guiding you. That is what they do. And so I think it's always worth remembering that, particularly when we need it most, if we're feeling alone or lost or down or, useless, or whatever our default mode can be. Some people feel depressed around, our friends can get depression and so forth. So it's even nice to share with them sometimes. So yeah, this is what they do. This is what they trained for. And now that they have attained the results, naturally, this is what they do. Now they do it effortlessly, spontaneously, without having to even contrive it. So the other thing is, Buddha can appear in any aspect, right? We saw that with the emanation body appearing in, as an animal and so forth. And because we don't know we don't know the realization of people's minds. And even if we did have realizations of others' minds, it can only ever be at the same capacity as our own mind. So, we don't know who are Buddhas and who are bodhisattvas. And of course, they're around us. But because of our karma being quite impure, we don't recognize who are the Buddhas, who are the ones helping us. So, I think it was Kabje Lama Zopa Rinpoche said that, Buddha Shakyamuni is always in the Gompa with us. So for Venerable and Bardo in the Gompa there at the center, but not only there, in each of our rooms, where we are with Zoom, wherever we are, Buddha is with us. And it can be in an aspect that we don't actually recognize. And if Buddha did turn up with all 32 signs and 80 exemplifications of the, the holy marks and signs of the body, we wouldn't even see it because we don't have the karma for it. So while we've got these obscurations obscuring our mind, we don't have the fortune to see the Buddha in those special forms. But one day, like when we get to the path of accumulation, small, middling, great, before going to the path of preparation, talking Mahayana path of accumulation here. By the time we get to the great stage, so small, middling, great, on that great stage is something called stream of continual Dharma. And it's on that stage that we can even receive teachings directly from statues. So this is quite incredible. We've got some pure karma by that point. When we progress to the path of seeing, we can receive teachings from the Sambhogakaya aspect. And then obviously when we, progress, it gets even more amazing. Now, until we're completely purified and actually we become one with Buddha, inseparable in the great bliss Dharmakaya, So it's a gradual progression, and we've already started, so this is good. But from our side, if we don't take refuge, even if the power of all the Buddhas and bodhisattvas is put together, it cannot save us from the precipice of the lower realms. So it comes down to us and our responsibilities, and we want to make sure, therefore, that we don't cheat ourselves. It's all there for the taking and receiving, but we have to step up and own it. So at the very least, we want to be free of the lower realms, but more than that, we definitely want to be free of cyclic existence, suffering endlessly. Right now we think, oh, we've got it pretty good, human rebirth, we've got the Dharma, beautiful nectar. But really, the more we can get in touch with our suffering, and I don't think this is depressing at all. The more we get in touch with our suffering, the more empowering it becomes, because it's caused and it can be stopped. Because its suffering is not permanent. It has a cause. Stop the cause, stop its result. And so while we wallow in our suffering and we don't take charge and responsibility, we're only going to continue to suffer and shock to the system, because some of us, we may not have developed full conviction yet in past and future lives. And this is a topic that, I think is quite assumed for a general Buddhist audience. But now it's come to the West, we have to do our own investigation, research, and there's plenty of information and books and videos and everything available to try to really investigate. And studying Valid Cognition, Pramanavartika by Dharmakirti, these are providing reasons for past and future lives. And it's very wonderful. So I think that's a very good basis, that if you haven't developed that, it's a wonderful basis to develop, because it's kind of like assumed, that you have that knowledge going in, which we don't in the West. So we need to work hard to get it. But so as far as personalizing this, the Buddha jewel, Dharma jewel, and all that sort of stuff, I'm just going to stop sharing for a second. So we've got to increase our faith. One of the causes of refuge, remember? Fear and faith. So we've got to increase our faith so that we can rely wholeheartedly on the Buddha. And I was wondering if you guys had ideas yourself about how we can actually increase our faith, to know that the Buddha is, loving us, always with us, ready to assist us, protecting us, has compassion, is a reliable source. How can we increase our faith? Write down that question, because if you don't come up with an answer now, I'd like you to consider it over the next week, please. Has anyone got any thoughts they'd like to share?
Venerable, may I come in? It's Paula.
Thank you. Hi, Paula.
A very simple thing that I think I do already, but not very consistently, of course, is, excuse me, that's the street. They do that. Is to notice, which is an ongoing practice for everything, isn't it? Notice everything.
Everything,
But notice the way things add up, and the way that things seem to support the laws of cause and effect. Even if it's not 100% clear cut, it's not always. But that's what I do. I just notice, and I think to myself, well, yes, that's looking pretty good. Probability is high there. And you sort of put that pebble in the pot, and then, you end up with a lot of pebbles and a lot of probability, and it seems to make it a little bit more solid every day.
That's brilliant. Thank you. Thank you. That's really kind. Thank you so much, because that's really, 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 really valuable. Thank you. I'd really appreciate that. And it's good tips for all of us. And, that's the wisdom. That's the wisdom of a small scope practitioner, this correct worldly, I never know how to say this, if it's a worldly correct view, I think that's how you say it, worldly correct view, which is having conviction in karma, seeing cause and effect, and knowing that if I create non-virtue, I'm going to end up suffering. If I create virtue, I'm going to end up getting higher realm rebirths. So this is like how we really can begin with good solid foundations, and we never pass it up. This is a foundation which we build upon. So the more we can notice, as you're suggesting, and seeing how things add up, and maybe not understanding all of it, because remember, a Buddha is the only one who understands karma, cause and effect in its most subtle way. But already having that noticeability and seeing things and observing how things are lining up, and then putting ourselves in that direction. So sometimes we start externally with cause and effect. That's the first level. If you look at 5 levels of dependent origination, that's the first level. We start externally. We see that from an apple seed, it gets many results, and there's roots and trunks and branches and leaves and fruit and harvest after harvest, year after year. One cause, many results. Karma. It's definite to produce an apple tree from an apple seed. It increases, many results come. Okay. And so then we can apply it internally to external cause and effect. We can apply internally to karma, actions and results, applying it to our own situation of, I need to cultivate good. I need to adopt virtue. I want happiness. What's the cause of happiness? Happiness is a result. So what's the cause of happiness? Virtue. I need to adopt virtue. I don't want suffering. What's the cause of suffering? Non-virtue. So I better stop the causes that I don't want and cultivate the causes I do. And then on we go. So yeah, that's brilliant. So that definitely increases our faith, because then if we can develop that sort of mindfulness, then we know that the teachings of the Buddha seem quite valid. And then we can go from there into increasing our faith in the Buddha, having been a valid being. Because what he taught, we can observe as true. I think that's kind of more or less what you're saying as well, Paula, right? Trying to reiterate and stuff and expand.
Absolutely, Venerable. That was lovely.
Thank
By
you.
the way, we've got people very excited.
I know. I saw a couple of hands. So the first one was the Gompa one. So if we start with the Gompa one, if that may be okay. Thank you. Where's our Gompa friends?
Go ahead, TNLSF.
Oh, hello. This is Bade again.
Thank you.
For myself, I think the best way that I can increase faith is just by experimentation and seeing the effect that meditating on the teachings, meditating on equanimity and these things have on myself.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's really precious. Thank you. That's gorgeous. That's exactly where we need to start. It's an internal process. And so the more we can grow these in ourselves and see the change. And when we look for the change, we don't look over one day, 1 week, 1 year even, but look back over, say, 5 years. Look at who I was 5 years ago. Look at who I've become now. So these amazing changes that we can experience, but we have to have a reasonable time frame by which we judge ourselves, and rejoice when we're doing better than we did 5 years ago. Have we got far to go? Perhaps. Okay, perhaps this is so, but don't tire and rejoice in how far we've come. Now, Kodo, you've got a question too, or a comment to make. A comment, I think, right? You're going to unmute yourself, darling? Can we unmute?
It takes a moment. I'm on an iPhone.
Hey, iPhones are great.
Yeah, yes, I'm thankful for it, but it's
too.
easier on a computer. So the reason I have faith in the way that I keep going and keep developing is because I've had lots of amazing experiences, kind of mystical, spiritual experiences, like seeing my past lives.
Whoa.
Some of them, not all, I mean, billions of them, but some past lives, like really saw them. And I've had clarity that some of the meetings I have had have been really intensely karmically oriented. And I felt the winds. I felt the wind go out of a dog, my dog, and I felt the wind come into my own womb when my daughter was being conceived.
Okay.
And Tibetan Buddhism is the only thing, and I've been a Zen practitioner for decades and other things too for decades because I'm 61.
Okay.
But Tibetan Buddhism is the only thing that talks about them very clearly, explains them very clearly. And I'm like, yay, finally,
Wow.
somebody
Somebody
knows
gets me.
this stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
somebody's like, they get it. I mean, they're telling me this is how it is. And I'm like, I have felt that. I have seen that. So I'm just so full of faith and very, very thankful to everybody doing this. Yes.
And that's
Yes,
amazing
thank you.
because you're coming from direct experience. And I think that's also, I think it was Bardo as well, was, you know, emphasizing that experience as well. And I'm sure Paolo was also, you know, from her own experience as well, you know, using the observing the mindfulness and watching and, you know, checking what adds up and what doesn't and not understanding, but putting it on the shelf if we don't understand for now. You know, all of these things are coming from our experience. And so, you know, that's the way we go forward. That's the way we strengthen our faith. You know, we're not asked to just swallow this stuff and it is true, you must accept. And I love that about the Dharma. We have to have our doubts. We work through our doubts. We accept what we understand for now. We don't disparage what we don't understand. We just don't understand it yet. We work hard to, when the time is right, to understand it. But I think this is what's so gorgeous about the Dharma is, you know, it is naturally experiential, naturally. And the more we can experience something, the more we can have faith. And so, you know, one of the next questions, the follow-up questions I was going to get you to think about at home is, you know, about experiences that we might have had with the guru, who's inseparable from the Buddhas, right? Where we've maybe made prayers or aspirations. And if we haven't done this, we can start to do this, where we make prayers and aspirations, we supplicate the guru. And perhaps you've had experience where they've responded, you know? And sometimes the response will be direct. Sometimes it'll be through the medium of another person that's come to, you know, help us in a particular way. You know, it can be in seemingly inconceivable ways. So think about that as well. And also, you know, I wanted to give you some other, this is all a choice. You don't have to do any of this, but I wanted to give you some other homework to think about as well. So let me just see. One of the homework things I wanted you to maybe write down if you were interested is to notice your interactions with Buddhist statues, tankas, images, and notice, just notice, is it complacent? Are they everywhere? Are they just like something you just see and, you know, pay not much attention to because they're always there? Or do you, when you see them, are you in any way mindful of their qualities? Do you prostrate when you see them physically, mentally? Okay, maybe even verbally. When you see holy objects, like Buddhist statues and so forth, do you see them as just decoration, or do you see them as actual Buddhas? Because these are a symbolic refuge, these statues and so forth, symbolic, and they lead us to, if we have refuge, you know, ultimately we're aiming for refuge in the Dharmakaya, but also we need to develop that refuge in the conventional Rupakaya, right? That which enacts the welfare of sentient beings, you know. But also these statues are an inroads for us to develop this refuge. I can remember just being so sad when I saw Oh, it's just horrible. Do you guys know what a wheelie bin is? It's a big plastic bin that the council gives you, and you put you say refuse or something, your garbage, you put your garbage in there. Oh my gosh, somebody had created a massive, maybe 1 meter by like a half a meter, something like this, big sticker of a Buddha and put it on the bin. I was horrified. It's just so lacking in refuge, and this is just shocking. It's not seeing it as an actual Buddha and taking faith. It's going way too far in our external. Buddhism is about internal, and I've even seen on Facebook, when you scroll through, you can buy, I've got to say the right word, I've got to hesitate here for a second. I think you might safely call them flip-flops, right? I didn't want to say the other word, which is what we call them in Australia, which is going to give a different image of what you call flip-flops. So I think the Kiwis call them jandals. Dan, you're an Aussie, you know what I'm talking about, but not saying. So I've seen flip-flops, those strappy little shoes, and on the sole part, Buddhas. Where you're going to put your soles of your feet. So yeah, these we shouldn't have Buddhas in our toilet, beautifying the bathroom, the toilet. We shouldn't really have, even if we're sexually active, we shouldn't have in our bedroom statues and like stupas and things like that. Because if we're developing a true refuge, we want to see these objects as being in actuality, not just some decoration. Okay? So same with placemats. You call them placemats, which you put your plate on it when you sit at the table. Okay? Some people have, Buddhas all over them, and then they go and put their plate on it. This is not the most respectful way to develop a mind of refuge and faith and seeing qualities. Basically, I haven't mentioned, I don't think, in the garden, you often see Buddhas placed on the ground. Not good. So you get some bricks or Besa blocks or something like this. Always elevate off the ground a Buddha statue. If it's outside in the weather, you might even give it, those gorgeous parasols that you get, like maybe they're made in Thailand originally, but you can get them in, a lot of the junk shops and, cheap stores and stuff like this. Beautiful parasols. You could even get like a parasol, like an umbrella type of thing, like a Thai style one for the garden, So when we have respect, then we don't want to see these objects merely as decoration. We want to use them in our practice to develop faith in them, to see their qualities, remember their qualities, to treat them as if they were Buddhas in actuality, and with that mind of reverence. That's going to help us in our progression. So part of the homework was just notice your interactions with the Buddha statues and tankas and images, and is it complacent, or am I actually treating it like an object of refuge and developing faith, and so forth. The second one was, check out the locations. Are your images in appropriate places? Not in the toilet, the bathrooms like this, not in the bedroom if you're sexually active, not on the ground, and so forth. Are there things that you can do, knowing now, having a mind that understands refuge, to remedy those things? And if we've engaged in those things in the past through our not knowing, okay, it's quite possible that many of us have engaged in those things, then we can always purify. So bringing in the 4 opponent powers, doing Vajrasattva, when we'll get to another, maybe in the 6th session of this module, we'll talk about doing the preliminary practice, maybe, or the 5th session. And, we can purify those sorts of things. any mistakes we've made where we've actually, there was these really cool jeans. I used to think they were awesome. They had really nice sort of painter style jeans, I think you might call it. And they had like a Buddha on the back pocket. And I just went, oh, they're so cool. And the design was excellent and everything. You get them in Noosa, Dan, probably just up the road from you. And but now I'm so thankful that I didn't buy them, and they were frightfully expensive, you know, profiteering off something like this. But yeah, I mean, that's the last thing you would be wanting as a Buddhist, to put your bum on a sitting, you know, on a Buddha body. Whoa, not good. So yeah, so check out your locations and what's appropriate. And then the other bit of homework I wanted to give you to consider was knowing the qualities of a Buddha's body, speech, and mind. So you might want to do some reading, investigate what are these 32 signs and 80 exemplifications, and what are these 64 melodies of sound or something that a Buddha has to its speech. Or, you know, we've certainly looked at the qualities of mind, looking at, you know, the omniscience, how it pervades all, wherever Buddha's mind pervades, necessarily his body pervades, where the body pervades, necessarily the speech pervades. So, you know, we've looked at the pervasiveness, the omniscience, we've looked at the qualities of knowledge and love or mercy, and this unbiased compassion, and we've looked at ability or power to benefit sentient beings and so forth. So when we consider all these qualities and the pervasiveness of Buddha's body, speech, and mind, then ask yourself, am I actually opening up with, you know, humility and respect to be actually receiving the blessings and the guidance, the inspiration in my practice? Am I drawing the curtains or drapes and going out into the sunlight? Am I entering, so to speak, you know, figuratively only here, entering into the hospital for the supreme doctor, the curative medicine to treat our long-term illness and the support of the Sangha, the nurses? So yeah, those were just some homework questions I thought would be nice just to prompt our mind. The other thing is, I think it's also worth considering, just making sure there's no more questions at the minute. And I trust you, Paula, to keep an eye on all of that, because I won't always. So thank you, love. The other thing is to think about, is Buddhahood possible? Because right now we've just made an assumption probably that it is. And that's a good start. But as students of the Buddha Dharma, following the Nalanda tradition, you know, based on reasons and logic and so forth, and as urged by the Buddha himself, don't accept merely what I've said just because I said it, you know, investigate, check up, analyze. So is Buddhahood possible? I want you to be able to sort of come to conclusions about this sort of thing. And also with regards to connecting with a guru, inseparable from Buddhas, it's not that we have to physically meet the guru in a conventional way, because it's about mentally meeting the guru. So even if the guru has shown an aspect of having passed on, we can still connect with that guru, or initially develop a connection with that guru, because we're mentally connecting. We're seeing that guru as Buddha, one with the Dharmakaya that pervades all phenomena. And so I do know from experience that even before meeting a guru, one who is alive that I'd not yet met, I can grow that faith and respect and devotion, and it unbelievably pays off. Like the guru, that sense of closeness and the response from the guru, ongoingly response now that we've physically met, you know, it's really incredibly precious and beautiful, and there's nothing in this world that compares to it. And it's as simple as you know, do you remember that book Heart of the Path by Lama Zopa Rinpoche on guru devotion? Oh my gosh, 3 books, Deserted Island, that's coming with me. It's amazing. I think Bodhisattva's Way of Life would be another, and then it's a fight for the third, what I take. It might be Lama Tsongkhapa's Illumination of the Thought. I'm not sure. I think so. Anyway, 3 books, Deserted Island, probably doesn't need to happen. So getting a mala and, connecting with the guru that you wish to develop more closeness and more devotion to, even just like the guru is Buddha, the guru is Buddha, the guru is Buddha, or you can go, the Buddha is the guru, the Buddha is the guru, the Buddha is the guru, and try to bring to mind your guru and seeing, the inseparability and having the qualities of Shakyamuni Buddha and so forth. And, debating with yourself using the outlines from the Lam Rim of Guru devotion to debate with yourself the reasons why the Guru is Buddha. Counter argue all the time with your doubtful mind until it is overcome. And these are good strategies I've found very helpful. Of course, make aspirational prayers to become exactly like the Guru. These are also good things. The other thing I might say now is, if we've had beginningless lives, we have developed love and compassion for every single sentient being at some point in time. In previous lives, different sentient beings at various times were our mother, our father, our siblings, our lover, and so forth. For each of those, we develop love and compassion. Beginninglessly, we've developed that love and compassion. And so the seed of love and compassion exists within us already in relation to every single sentient being. But we have yet to sprout that seed to develop love and compassion for every single sentient being simultaneously. And that's the great compassion. So we have the seed of great compassion already, having love to all sentient beings separately at different times. That seed that can sprout great compassion, bodhicitta, enlightenment. So we already have these qualities within us, and it's worth remembering that we have a stable basis, this mind, this clear and knowing mind that goes from life to life, and with it we take our imprints. So I think I'm happy to stop there and do some questions if you have them, or some go to our dedications. Aaron's got a raised hand, which is good. And let's a couple of people with raised hands. So yeah, I don't want to overload you with too much, and so Aaron, do you want to go first, my friend?
Do you have a recommended prayer to find a guru or to form devotion to the guru?
To find a guru?
Mm-hmm.
I think it might be nice to see Guru Shakyamuni Buddha as your guru for now. Learn about the qualities of Shakyamuni Buddha. But then also, if you have some sort of feeling, some sort of movement, some sort of softening in the mind when you think of His Holiness the Dalai Lama or so forth, you've got Geshe Sherib there. Lama Zopa Rinpoche is the spiritual director of all of our centers. If you have any connection with any of these lamas, some sort of softening in the heart where you feel that maybe they could tame you or subdue you, yeah? Then definitely, Guru is Buddha, Guru is Buddha, Guru is Buddha. And Rinpoche said to me even, the Guru is so precious, so kind, so precious, so kind. So you can even do a mala, so precious, so kind. Thinking of the Guru, so precious, so kind. And I found these techniques actually do help me, because I'm very much reasons and logic, and I'm very much in need of developing faith based in reasons and logic. I'm not just going to swallow things whole. Do you know what I mean? So for me, these have worked. And I can say through, initially, I think I had more blind faith in my Dharma practice, but now we had an amazing Geshe Jamyang. He was here for many years, and he sort of, in some ways, I wouldn't say he beat, because it sounds harsh, but I'll say it anyway, but I don't mean it harshly, beat out that blind faith in me and helped me to develop reasons and logic, for which I'm forever grateful. And then doing the master's program only strengthened that. Amazing. So I think in those earlier days, I did have more blind faith, a bit more fanatical in some ways, which, you know, I don't really go with so much now. I don't think that my faith has lessened. It's just changed. It's just it's transformed into something maybe more stable. So, but these techniques certainly helped me, Aaron. And as far as Guru Devotion, that book is utterly beyond precious, Heart of the Path. Yeah, that would be my recommendations. And just slowly, and just, you know, yeah, debate with yourself with the outlines, you know. Bring up counter arguments to try to challenge the teachings. And you may find that they're irrefutable. But investigate and find your own way through analysis that to be so. You don't just have to swallow it whole. You can, if you are faith oriented already, great. Your job is easy. You're already there. But if you're not, they're the helpful strategies. Thank you. We better take that last question before doing the dedications, because I was a bit late last time, wasn't I? Was there someone else who had that question? Was it you, Kodo? No, who was it?
It was the same question, so it's answered. Thank you.
Stop. Okay, cool. I love it when that happens. Okay, so let's do some dedication. Now, I'll share screen again. Okay, I might need to just get out of PowerPoint for a second so I can go down to the prayers. Oh, it's almost 2 o'clock here, so it's probably almost 9 your time. You must be getting a bit tired. Hopefully you can see that okay. So we can really rejoice, and like how amazing that we have given up whatever was, you know, seemingly more important otherwise, to actually be here with each other and to help each other as a community, to try to deepen our refuge. So I thank you so sincerely for allowing me the opportunity to try to develop understanding and evolve my own refuge. And hopefully you in the process are also developing your refuge as well, and building on what is already there, some of it already in great capacity. So all of the merits that we've created, we can rejoice in each other's merits, we can rejoice in our own. In this crazy world that we live in, to think that we can come together with hearts in Dharma. Amazing. And we can join all our merit of each other, ourselves, with all the merit of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, of the 3 times, past, present, and future, all of these merits gathered together. And we can recite some dedication prayers. Due to this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of a Guru Buddha, that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their sufferings. May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. Whatever white virtues were thus created, we dedicate as causes, enabling us to uphold the holy Dharma of scriptures and realization, and to fulfill without exception the prayers and deeds of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 3 times. By the force of this merit, may we never be parted in all our lives from Mahayana's 4 wheels, and may we reach the end of our journey along the paths of renunciation, bodhicitta, pure view, and the 2 stages of tantric practice. Incomparably kind and supreme Tenzin Gyatso, the wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, may you have a long life and all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. You who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as a bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplishes magnificent prayers honoring the three sublime ones, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. Okay. So thank you, everyone. Nice to see your face, Victor. Yeah. And I wish you a wonderful, joyful week and great happiness and much delightful perseverance and mindfulness, observing all of these, causes and effect, karma, actions and results, and generating experience so that we can deepen our refuge in the Buddha jewel. Thank you.
Thank you